Jesus arrived back home almost a year after he and his brother-in-law set out, having to stop along the way many times between Japan and Judea. But when he finally reached Nazareth, it was a joyous homecoming. His mother, by the well collecting water, when Jesus walked into the village, dropped the jug and ran to him, clutching him tightly to her, not even noticing. Soon, his siblings were out, each hugging and kissing him in turn. They couldn't believe he was finally home after so many years. Jesus spent a week telling his mother and siblings about his travels abroad, including his studies in India and Japan, about his late wife Miyuko, and his 3 daughters he had to leave behind. In the time he stayed with his family, he learned of the situation in Judea. A new governor, Pontius Pilate, had been installed by Emperor Tiberius, and he did everything in his power to antagonize the Jews, including placing images of the emperor in Jerusalem, an outrageous offense, to most, and proceeding to beat to death many who came to protest outside his villa. Pilate, an Egyptian of Spanish, Germanic, and Italian ancestry, was the son of Gaius Tyrannus, a Spaniard of German parentage, and Pila, an Egyptian woman of Roman descent, whose parents had moved from the Italian town of Ameria to Egypt before her birth. A soldier by profession, he had worked his way into the position of governor, and was eager to become known for his efficiency and firm hand. The irony, of course, was that his wife Claudia Procula was Jewish daughter of Judeans, who settled in Rome, and she was born and raised in Italy, having only ever been to her parents' homeland. Now when he was posted there, by all accounts she was the typical Roman woman, save that she practiced Judaism, though a heavily Romanized form of it. Pilate loved his wife, but treated her coreligious like dirt, in order to show the might of the empire, and to quell any possible rebellions. They also told him that John the Baptist, a cousin to them, on their mother's side, Simon Boethius's sister, Elizabeth, John's mother, was preaching in the wilderness, taking the ascetic tenets of the Essenes and merging them with Zealot ideology. John the Baptist was a staunch Judean nationalist who sought to restore the Hasmonaean Dynasty to Judea's throne and expel the Romans, but, like Jesus, he was also a prophet, chosen to deliver a message of repentance to the Judean upper classes, who John called vipers for abusing the poor and needy. He had hundreds of followers, some Jews and non-Jewish Judeans wishing to learn wisdom and a strong spiritual path, while also fighting against a corrupt government. To Jesus, who had seen visions of John in his time abroad and knew who he was in his past life, it made sense he would be so outspoken, so passionate. Elijah, John's previous incarnation, was also outspoken for Jehovah and Asherah, even going so far as to kill innocent priests of another religion. His zeal was so great. This, of course, had been rewritten in the Tanakh to reflect the current belief that God himself sanctioned the murders. But Jesus knew better. Elijah had acted on his own and shed innocent blood, because his rage overcame him, and now, as John, he would need to make up that karmic debt. It remained to be seen how he would do that, however. One component of John's movement that appealed to Jesus was baptism, a cleansing of the body of sins and guilt. Baptism was inspired by the Jewish practice of mikveh, immersion in water to cleanse the body of ritual impurities, such as abnormal discharge of semen, masturbation, for an example. In John's movement, however, baptism was an introduction. One was baptized and cleaned of their sins and promised to do their best to avoid sinful behavior in future. Jesus saw in baptism a way to bring non-Jews to Judaism, in a way that did not require circumcision. The first course of action in traditional Judaism, while mikveh was part of the process, circumcision was seen as cementing the covenant between the man or woman and God. Many non-Jews, however, did not want to slice off their foreskin, and Jesus understood this, and like Menahem, did not believe it was necessary to become part of Israel. Instead, learning of how John did baptism gave him the idea to use it as the first and final step in the process of conversion. He also, much to the fury of Pharisee and Sadducee elders, took the idea from his other great-grandfather Hillel, that one could learn more about Judaism after they converted so as not to overburden them with knowledge and scare them away. Inspired by what he heard of John's movement, even if he disagreed with its militant bent, Jesus quickly left Nazareth with his mother and siblings, heading out to the Jordan River where his cousin was performing baptisms.